Hello, and welcome to my Absolute Beginners series for Kerbal Space Program on Xbox One. In this episode, we're just going to cover starting a new career, a very basic rocket build, and the all-important collection of science. I'm going to go ahead and select a flag that's a little retro here. I like this one. Small little logo, the KSP on there. And we'll leave the difficulty options at normal and go ahead and get our career started. The basics of this are just how to collect science, and science can be collected in various places. You can run different experiments, but once you run an experiment in a particular place, it becomes less and less effective. So the first thing we're going to do is go in here and build our first rocket in the assembly building. Got our little pop-up here with our how-tos and what we're supposed to be doing. And over here on the left you see we have our command module, and we are selected on modules. We have no fuel tanks at the moment, and we have one solid rocket booster, girders, some basic fins, a parachute, the all-important parachute, and our science experiments. So the first step in any rocket build is the command module. We only have one option, so we'll go ahead and put that, and we'll go ahead and drop our solid rocket booster on the command module. And just for fun, let's put some girders on here to hold it up. Now what I'm changing is the symmetry mode down to 4, and then I'm going to lock the symmetry so that it is in 22.5-degree angles, so it will snap to the outside in those angles. So it helps us get right angles a whole lot better. And using the directional pad on your controller going left, right, or up and down, you can spin the girders to the position that you want them. And it looks like 4 is going to be too many to put on here, so let's go down to 3. And we'll put those on in an attractive way. These are very unnecessary. It's just going to give us a little bit wider platform and lift our engine off of the launch pad a little bit. And maybe we'll use this later on when we are trying to land. It's also, when you're coming down with a parachute, if you end up coming too fast, the girders can take a whole lot more damage than the engine can by hitting the ground. So it can be a bit of a sacrificial part. Our all-important parachute, so that we don't hit the ground at the rate that we fall. We want to slow down. And our mystery goo containment unit. Now I'm going to set our symmetry to 2. I'm going to put 2 of these on. They will affect the way that the rocket flies, so one reason for this is balance, and the other reason is we may want to do multiple experiments while we are launched. So that's it. That's a very basic rocket, about as basic as you can get and still be functional and have some uses. And we're just going to name it something here so that we can reference it after we save it. So we'll just call it our science grabber and save the rocket design and go ahead and head to the launch. Now we're not actually going to lift off during this launch. We're going to run our first mission completely from the launch pad. Since we are just starting, all of our experiments and all of our reports are brand new on the launch pad. We don't have any information from Kerbal yet. So the first thing I can do is hit the B button over the mystery goo container, and you can see that we get some science for that. The next thing I can do is run a crew report from inside the cabin by hitting B over top of the hatch door, and we get science for that. Now sitting here, we can actually go ahead and EVA Jeb out onto the outside of the capsule, and since we're not actually standing on the surface, we can get some information that is a little bit above Kerbal. You see it actually says flying above Kerbal. So that's a low altitude flight. You can see here when I try to observe the mystery goo from the outside, it says that Jeb cannot do this. That is because Jeb is a pilot. You have pilots, scientists, and engineers that you can select as your astronauts, and they all have specialties. And a scientist specialty is being able to run the experiments from outside the vehicle. So if we get back in, you can see that we can go ahead and get more science for running the second experiment. So both of these are opened now. We can go ahead, we can review our report, and we can either keep this or we can transmit it back. You see our transmit is at 100% since we're sitting right here. So we have absolutely nothing to lose by transmitting it, but we can just hold on to it until we get back down, since we're not afraid that Jeb is going to die during this particular mission. The other thing we can do is we can take Jeb and actually drop him down to the surface. And it's going to be a little bit of a long fall because we don't have a ladder just yet, but that's okay. Jeb's resilient. He will survive. And you can see we can get another EVA report that shows it from the launch pad. And we're just going to walk away a little bit because I want to show you something about recovering vessels. We'll walk Jeb a little distance away from the launch pad here, and then we're going to go ahead and end this mission. Now, you could just go ahead and go back into the capsule and end the mission, but since we don't have a ladder, it's going to be pretty difficult for Jeb to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and recover the vessel, and you'll see that the science that we get out of this is not going to be the full value of everything that we collected. You can see that all we have are the information that Jeb actually had, not what the ship had. And you can see our rocket is still sitting here on the launch pad. That's because we recovered Jeb without him being in the vessel. But we can go here to the tracking station. Since our vehicle is safe, it's on Kerbin, and it has not exploded, and we can select that rocket and go ahead and recover the vessel from here, receiving all the science that was part of our experiments. So that is basically it for how science works. You'll need to collect it for use in the research and development department to unlock new parts for new rockets, which ultimately gives you new parts for experiments for yet more science.